All right, friends, we're back to chapter 18, The Rescue 2. Bob's stand-in on his show went on the air. He sadly reported that Bob had still not been found. They showed the picture and the note that was left in Amy's office. He reported that as of this time, they only had 12 hours left to find Bob and that they feared for his safety. Back in the prison basement, the plain-clothes man enters the dark room. He walks halfway across the room and turns on the lamp in the middle of the table. As the room lights up, he tells the poor man, sitting helplessly tied to a chair, "Your girlfriend really doesn't like you, does she?" "Unfortunately for her, that means bad news for you," he said as he approached the prisoner. He reaches down and aggressively pulls the bag off the man's head. "Surprise," the man in the chair said, smiling up at him. "What the man said before blackness overtook him. You know, sorry, I just got done eating lunch. And I had a piece of pepper. Anyway, it's not like our kids to just sit around here and be like, "Oh, somebody help us." They take control. When the man woke up, he was in an interrogation room. He looked around the room. He had one hand cuffed to a metal table. He was alone. He started yelling at the walls. "You can't detain me. I want my lawyer. I'm innocent." He continued like this for several more minutes. No response. After an hour, his head was pounding. He was thirsty, and he gave up yelling. After another hour, the door finally opened. A man approached, entered. The man who entered looked familiar. It was the man from the chair. He sat down, not speaking. The one who surprised him, the one who said, "Surprise." The detainee began his argument before Teddy. Remember Teddy? The detainee began his argument from before. Teddy just sat there until he relented again. "Water?" Teddy asked. The man stared at him for a long moment. "Please." Teddy got up, left the room for a minute, and returned with a styrofoam cup filled with water. The man took the cup and drank it down. The man began again. "I won't answer any questions until my lawyer arrives. You clowns don't know who you're messing with." Teddy tilted his head and said, "That makes two of us. You seem to think you're dealing with the police." "You are not," he said matter-of-factly. "Let me fill you in on some gaps in your knowledge. A secret agency is detaining you. One you probably aren't even aware exists. Let me be clear. You have no rights here." The man just looked at him. "After I ask you some questions, I will give you two options. After you get your options, you will have 1 hour to decide. We will decide for you if you haven't decided by then." The man began to speak. Teddy raised his hands to silence him. "Your hour has already started. I suggest you listen now. You already know we have an agent working undercover at the prison. Don't argue. You don't have time for that. We know that there's going to be an attempt. They know that an attempt is going to be made on his life. We want details, and we want them now. After we get that information, we will move on to who you are working for." The man began to say something about never being a rat and other nonsensical things. Teddy stopped him again. "I haven't even given you your options yet. One, if you cooperate, we will give you a new identity and move you to a beautiful tropical island with gorgeous women, and you will live out the rest of your life in luxury. Option two, you don't cooperate, and we still move you to a beautiful tropical island. This one doesn't have gorgeous women, or fresh water, or shelter. The only animals on the island are birds, except for the crabs. The crabs that can grow up to 2 feet in length. Did I mention that if you lay down, and try to sleep for too long, the crabs will try to eat you. You can eat them if you can break through their shell, but you won't have any tools or weapons. There are coconuts. I'm sure you know at what stage you can eat them and at what stage they'll make you violently ill. The man began his usual tirade. Teddy stopped him again, tapping his wristwatch. I will add one more thing, Teddy said nicely. You probably have known a few of your colleagues from the past who have sat right there and were given the same two options. Some chose option one, and some chose option two. You and the rest of your thugs assumed that they went missing and were never found. Now talk. You said I had an hour, the man replied. You have 51 minutes. Ted looked at his wristwatch. I'm asking you to decide whether or not you're going to tell us who you work for. You tell me about the planned attack on our man now, Teddy replied calmly. The man looked down at his lap and then at his surroundings. What about my family? He asked. What about them? Ted replied. If I take your offer, do they come with me? He asked hesitantly. No, Ted replied, feeling a little sorry for the creep. They have to believe that you really are missing. They can never know anything otherwise. If we find out that you tried to communicate with anyone, well, we'll kill them, Ted answered. We don't want that, and neither do you. How do I know you won't just kill me anyway? The man continued. I guess you'll have to take my word for it, Ted told him. The man took a breath. There's a prisoner. He's a new guy. The guards on the inside made him an offer, kind of like the one you're giving me. Not much of an offer either way. He sighed again. The guards will ensure that your guy and this newbie are together in the same area. They gave him a knife. There's going to be some commotion. The newbie is going to stab your undercover. He let out a deep breath. When? Ted asked. Tomorrow, 2:00. I don't know the rest of the details. I swear, he finished. Good. I'll be back in 42 minutes, looking at his wristwatch again, and we'll continue our conversation. Ted pushed his chair out and left the room. Around midnight, Jim went to the room in the prison basement to check on his old friend. The door was open, and the room was empty. I guess Amy made the wrong choice, he muttered, shrugged, and returned to his cell. The following day, Nick, a.k.a. Joe, showed up for work on time and began his rounds. He could see some of the other guards smirking at him. He would smile and nod to them. Around noon, Tommy, a.k.a. Ralph, was summoned. They gave him the weapon, the time, and the place, and he hoped that Amy had some kind of plan. As he made his way to the designated spot and watched the clock tick, he watched Nick. He was standing about 20 feet away, just looking around the room. It was a TV and game room. There were about 10 more prisoners in the room with them. There was no way he could send a message to Nick. Just then, the door opened, and another guard came in. He walked up to Nick. He said something in his ear. Nick looked concerned and left the room. Tommy slumped in relief. Nick went to the guard's locker room and picked up the phone. Hello? He said, a frantic woman on the other. He said, Hello, he said. A frantic sounded woman was on the other phone. Apparently, little Joey fell on the playground at school and possibly broke his arm. He was being taken to the hospital. Okay, he said reassuringly. I'm sure he's fine. I'll meet you there. What hospital? Some of the other guards overheard him say. He hung up and went to the warden's office. My kid fell and maybe broke his arm. They're taking him to the hospital, he told the warden. The warden gave him a wave of his hand, signaling him to leave. Go see your kid. We can cover you here, he said, in a fatherly tone. Nick quickly made his way out of the prison. What do you think he's going to go see at the hospital, huh? Tommy was called back to the group. Same plan tomorrow. Jim said, annoyed. What time? At that time, some uniformed police entered the room. They took all of the men, including Ralph, and the bad guards. Once safely in an interrogation room, Tommy slumped into a chair. He rubbed his wrists. That was too close, he said to Ted. We had to make sure we had enough evidence, Ted replied. Ted filled him in on the rest of the story. Bob was recovering at the hospital. Nick went there immediately after he left the prison. Bob would recover, and they knew who planned the whole thing. Who do you think was? Chapter 19, the reveal. Now we find out who was behind Bob's kidnapping. After the ordeal, Sal returned home to Detroit to spend time with his family. Ben and Mara returned to New York. They met at Ted's office. Amy, Ainsley, Ben, Mara, Nick, and a still banged up Bob. Ted filled them in on the details. Synthetica was behind it all. They hired some thugs from the New York Mafia to do their kidnapping. It should be no surprise that the mob already has its tentacles in the prison system. They got Jim moved here so they could get information on you, he said, looking at Amy. We swept your office for bugs. I don't think you're safe anywhere outside of the building, he told the whole crew. I can't have you all followed by armed guards. What's Ted up to, huh? Do we know who exactly it was at Synthetico? Amy asked Ted. We do, he replied. Who? She asked. Ted glanced at Mara quickly. It can't be my father. He's still in prison, she argued. He looked at her. Does the name Clay Gentry sound familiar? She tilted her head, trying to remember the name. He was on the board of Global Water Corp, she asked. He was the head of the board of directors for Global Water Corp, Ted reminded her. Amy ruined him. Based on the information we've collected, he has a living hatred for her. Somehow, he proved that he wasn't involved in the GWC scandal, but he lost nearly everything because of it. He blames Amy for everything. Now she's coming after him again, Ted continued. His plan wasn't just to murder Amy, but to hurt every one of you in some way before he did it. He said thoughtfully. It's a damn good thing you have me, he said to Amy and smiled, trying to lighten the mood. The group was quiet for a few minutes. So what do we do? Amy asked. We stay one step ahead of him, Ted replied. At the same time, we must prove that he's behind it all. How do we do that? Amy asked. First of all, we kill Bob. Oh, I'm getting a delivery and my dogs are going to bark. First of all, we kill Bob, he said, tilting his head towards Bob. The whole group looked shocked. I think we can kill Ben and Sal too while we're at it, Ted said with a smile. They started to catch on. Bob's stand-in, and now permanent replacement, sadly reported the news. We regret to inform you that the body of Bob Roth was discovered. The investigation is still ongoing. Another blow to Amy Bryant, the founder of the United Global Corp, which was co-founded with her late friend Bob Roth. Two key members of her staff, engineer Ben Buckley and head foreman Salvador Rossi, and 7 other crew members were swept away while trying to repair a problem with the section of pipeline in New Hampshire last week during Hurricane Gretchen. Their sacrifice will be remembered, as they are credited with saving the lives of many people who would have been affected if the town had been flooded. They will be remembered, he said sadly. We tried to reach out to Amy Bryant for a comment. Unfortunately, she is devastated by the loss of 3 of her colleagues in 1 week. We will keep you updated if we get any further information. Clay Gentry clicks off the television. That was easier than I thought, he told a nervous-looking staff member. What about the other one? The wife. Clay cut him off. No, not her. She's on the wrong team, but she's my friend's daughter. She's off limits, he told him. So we got her boyfriend, her best friend, and her best worker in 1 week. And her last little project resulted in her father's death, Clay said proudly. He got his information from Jim, who was still under the impression that Bob had stolen his girlfriend and that they were still a couple. Technically, we didn't get the others. Clay cut him off. It doesn't matter, he snapped at the little man. Clay missed the days when he was surrounded by real men who weren't squeamish about doing what needed to be done. Now all he had was Kevin. He sighed and continued, She's at her lowest. Now we go for the head of the beast. I'm not leaving this up to idiots this time. I'm going to handle this myself, he smiled. The next chapter, chapter 20, Don't Underestimate Amy.